Perfect. Time to get started. How is everyone? How is everyone? Quickly type in the chat if my voice and audio is clear. Quickly. How are you doing? We are kickstarting week 3 with jumping into deep dive with NFTs, and we have a very special person to take the session today. We have Nameet Potnis, who is a founder at Asset Money. Now you know what's Asset Money. We spoke a lot about NFTs, how to track, how to sell, how to what are the NFTs in the marketplace. That's exactly what Asset Money does, and Nameet is the guy who's building this fantastic platform for all of us. And we thought, why not a guy who's building this amazing platform come up, take a session, tell you what all is in the NFT space, right? So just type in the chat if you're excited about the session. Type in me or drop a boom for Namish in the chat. My bad, I said Namish. Namit in the chat. Boom. Quickly, guys, we are not starting before that. We need some enthusiasm. Yeah. So what are the things that we are going to learn today? A very quick glimpse of, how does today look like? We're going to understand about what are NFTs, characterization of NFTs, and we'll also tell you how they have evolved over the time and what is their importance in Web3. And, and not taking a lot of your time, Namit, are we good to go? Yeah, just a little hi from everyone in the community.
Absolutely. Very nice to meet everybody. Guys, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, the voice is perfect at my end.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, so Om, I'm going to take over from you and pull up my screen and then start talking about stuff. Perfect. Couple of requests before I begin. The thing is, I've been in the NFT space for a decently long enough time where I'm extremely excited about the space. And I'm hoping that by the end of the evening, there are two things that you can leave with, right? Number one is that you have a better understanding of NFTs way beyond the sort of stuff that you idly read in the media or the sound of, other people telling you, oh, this is all a sham. And I'm hoping I can show you not just what they are, but also a bunch of use cases of what they can be, what we can do with them, where they've come from, and a bunch of that. That's number one. The second thing that I'm genuinely hoping by the end of the night is that you're way more excited about NFTs because of what this could be in the future. Hopefully, quite a few of you may even go on and either become collectors who dabble and start buying into NFTs or become creators who create their own NFTs after they realize how powerful they can be. I'm hoping these are the two takeaways. Couple of things from my end. If you have any questions, please do send them. We'll be more than happy to take them. I'm going to try and leave some time towards the end to do that. The second one is that I absolutely love looking at reactions on the faces of people so that I can always give better examples. So if possible, would be lovely for you to have your video on, at least those who are right here on Zoom. Okay. Let's get started. So what are NFTs? Before I jump into that, a quick background about me. I've been building businesses for close to a couple of decades. While I've done a bunch of stuff and built a couple of companies in the past, for the last 3 years, I've actually been dabbling in the NFT space, buying a bunch of them, understanding why they are valuable, also understanding what lies at the core. What does this mean? What can you do? What are the new use cases that can open up? And with all of that together, me and a bunch of people now believe in the fact that in the future, NFTs will be even more ubiquitous than they are right now, which means that at that point of time, NFTs won't be about, hey, I bought something for $10 and I sold it for 1,000 and I am rich, right? While that will exist to be a very small part of the system, a lot more use cases will come up. NFTs could become tickets. They could become collectibles. They could become, you want to enter a club, your NFT gives you certain access there, right? Your favorite artists could then come and mint their songs as NFTs. We're going to talk about a bunch of these. And because this is a future that we believe in, we're now building a tool that helps you discover, track, buy, and sell digital assets, which is NFTs, and this platform is called asset money. I'm going to straight jump in. Today, what you've heard or what you may have heard about NFTs is, hey, what NFTs can do is it can tell me what's original. If there are 5 Van Gogh paintings, how do I identify what the real one is? Today, if you were looking at this actual example in the real world, the way this would look is somebody at a museum would say, hey, I'm going to now tell you this is legit because of who I am. And that's how you would authenticate a Van Gogh painting. Well, while this is what they look like today, this isn't the use case. And we will talk about why NFTs aren't just about art. And if this is just one of the very, very small things, the question that we come to, and the most important one, is what exactly are non-fungible tokens? And instead of making this very theoretical, I'm going to pull up a fun one, right? Think about you, each and every one of you, right? Each and every one of us. I would like to believe there is just one of us in this world with all the qualities that we have, good and bad, and with the places that we've been born and the families that we have. There is just one of us, which means in a very weird way, since there is just one of us, we are actually non-fungible, which means there aren't others, and we are humans, which means we are non-fungible humans. Each one of us is unique, and we can't be exchanged for another human because the qualities just won't stick. While that's slightly abstract, what's the difference between a fungible token and a non-fungible token? NFTs have been around from 2017. Think of it this way. Today, think of rupees or dollars, right? Or any of your currency. Your currency is interchangeable. You could have a 100 rupee note or a $100 note, and you could then get another one from somebody, and both of them would actually have the same value. And hence, these are known as fungible tokens. Currency actually is something known as a fungible token. The second example of something like this is, think of a game, right? Most of us may have played really fun games like Mario. And in Mario, you had those coins, and every time you accumulated those coins, you got some powers. But can you take those coins out of the game? You can't. They're meaningless. But you can exchange those coins for other things. They are interchangeable, right? So those Mario coins or any currency in game or in an ecosystem, which can be exchanged for something like it, is essentially known as a fungible token. Whereas on the other side, we're looking at NFTs, which are non-fungible. Now, what does that mean? I've written 3 things. While they sound slightly complex, here's the simplest way of understanding this, right? Number 3 there says establish provenance. Let's assume today I am someone who's going to mint an NFT. And I think you guys did a session a couple of days ago with somebody who was teaching you how to mint NFTs and how they've minted a project. And the idea is very simple. Once I mint an NFT onto the blockchain, it essentially is immutable. Immutable means irrefutable proof that it exists. It has X, Y, Z number of properties. It was minted by this person or this wallet, and it will be here for time immemorial, right? Essentially, it helps you establish provenance, establish proof, right? And just think of what this could mean. While today this seems like, hey, these are just things that we've made with art or with games. In the future, what if all of our birth certificates were issued as immutable proofs? What if our degree certificates, what if our land records were essentially issued as immutable proofs? Which means that anything that's put in there and all the information included there is now immutable. It's not going to go away. It's established there. It stays forever. Anybody can read it, and it can be traceable at any point of time. The second one is essentially, think of this as your on-chain identity. Now, what does that mean? Today, a bunch of projects, a bunch of clubs, a bunch of brands are saying, you can log in using Google. Your Google ID tells me who you are, right? And that comes with certain benefits. You've told Google my age or my email address or my location. And now all of this can be shared with whichever website you're logging into. Now, imagine what that means is if you own an NFT and a project on the other side essentially says, hey, if you are somebody who owns this asset, this is now your identity. As far as you own this, you can now log in, you can get certain benefits, you can get certain access, you can get utilities, you can get a bunch of things. and not just on the fun and games, but even a bunch of governments globally are looking at saying, hey, can we issue tokens, right, and non-fungible tokens to citizens to say all of their information is now available on the blockchain. Today in India, we may have, let's say, an Aadhaar number, or globally you may have a social security number. These are numbers that are valuable within an ecosystem. So an Aadhaar means an Aadhaar number, or a social security number means something within that ecosystem only. If you mint this on the blockchain and you have the ability to query this, to go and check that information, it now is something that transcends geographical borders. It transcends a single entity's hold over that. And because of these two larger traits that have come around, very often people ask me, hey, could artists have created, or could brands have created communities? Could communities have come together without NFTs? Of course they could. Right? Could I do ticketing without NFTs? Of course I could. Could I do a bunch of these things without NFTs? Yes, I could. But bringing NFTs into these use cases now, do they make it better somehow? They do. Right? So while I could issue tickets in the past to a Lady Gaga concert, right, or a Bryan Adams concert, can I convert those tickets not into just a ticket which gives me an entry, but after it gives me an entry, it also becomes a collectible? Imagine if you attended, imagine whoever you love, right, whether it's an artist or a football team or a mathematician, right? And every time you went and you were able to experience something with them, it wasn't just a token which you were able to pay and get entry to. It's also a token which stays with you. Now imagine among all of you, if there are people who run a brand, who think of building a brand tomorrow in the future, imagine what that could mean for your community. Your community could not just pay to get access to what you're building, but also take a part of you, your brand, with them. And that is something that's new, that comes up because of the ability of non-fungible tokens, right? Here are three things. And because I'm going to the absolute fundamentals, I've kept it incredibly simple, right? What are the three most important things to remember about NFTs? Number one, permissionless. So what does that mean, right? Today, if I wanted to create a new PAN card, can you or I go and issue a PAN card? I'm not saying can you and I get a PAN card. I'm saying, can we issue a PAN card? We can't, right? A central authority can issue it. In the same way, if you are looking at setting up a new Google account, you would still be able to log in, but the control over what happens is guarded by somebody. It could be anyone. It could be a corporation. It could be a brand. It could be a government. It could be anyone. What happens with NFTs is they're permissionless. It doesn't matter who you are. What you can do is everybody has the same amount of power to do X or Y or Z with NFTs. Anyone out there can go and mint an NFT. And the beautiful part is the second one, right? Permanence. An NFT in it can contain information that could be anything. It could be music, it could be audio, it could be video, it could just be text, it could be location coordinates. It could be identity. It could be absolutely any information, but that information, once minted, is permanent. It stays there, right? That married with the third P, which is programmable. What this lets you do is it says, hey, I have given 100 people NFTs, but in the game that I build, or in the metaverse that I build, or in the brand that I have built, or in the Subway store that I have, if somebody comes in 10 times and gets it punched or scans this QR, I can program the NFT to now unlock certain access. So in the past, I could do this, let's say, with a loyalty program as a brand. That's it. But now think of what this means. Let's assume you're a brand, you issue an NFT, and for your holders, you've issued some information in it, they have certain rights. It's not that they can use this only with you. You can now say, or anybody out there can say, hey, if you hold an NFT issued by Om, you can get benefits over at my place, or you can get utility over at the brand that we're doing. Or because you visited this place physically, the programmable nature of your NFT has now changed. And you can essentially go and do much more, because in that smart contract, you can now program what happens. So it's permissionless, which means anyone can essentially mint one. The information minted in that is permanent, right? It stays there forever, and it's programmable, which means you can do things like, imagine playing a game, having certain NFTs. The more levels that you grow, or the more enemies that you kill, or the more land that you capture, the nature of that NFT can actually change, and the benefits that it brings you can also grow, right? Now, here's something that I've realized very often. What usually happens is what's reported in the news is stuff that's either extremely positive or extremely negative, right? Stuff that's in the middle, stuff that's nuanced, stuff that takes time to think about, usually is not something that you will pick up, not just the media, but essentially anywhere. And hence, most of you all may have heard about, hey, here is a picture of a rock, and this sold for $1 million, right? And a bunch of people are like, Nameet, what the hell is this? This is all scam, right? And I agree. And then a bunch of people on the other side are like, hey, here are people who are minting NFT projects, taking the money and running away, and it's all a scam. Well, that is also happening. But right in the middle of these two extremes of absolute craziness, there is a bunch of things happening. And what I've tried to do is think about what those use cases are. I've brought them here for you today, and I'll take you through each of them with examples, so that by the end of the session, you're not just looking at what those examples are, but you have a mental model of how to think about this, right? And hence my favorite thing to say essentially is that NFTs aren't just about artsy images. That's what you read today, right? This is an image of a bored ape. It's an image of a crypto punk, and people are paying a few $1 million for a punk, and everybody is wondering what the hell is happening. Why would somebody do that? Well, there are many, many more use cases. I will also talk about why punks are important, and why apes are important, and why there are a bunch of other animals who could be important, and what that meant. But I'll take you to these, right? And this is where I want to spend some time. So I'm saying, hey, here are a bunch of use cases that NFTs, and some of these are not that far away. In fact, some of these are currently live. They are being used, and I'll see if I can give you some examples that you can go and check out. A few of these are not live yet, but I personally know of companies who are already working on building those, which means it's very possible in the next 6 to 12 months, you will actually have large global companies building for each one of these use cases. And these are things that you will see, which are based on the core tenet of the fact that an NFT and the ability to issue a non-fungible token is an interesting use case. Then how do we rise up from there, and what else can we do, right? I'm going to start off right at the bottom and go to the top, because investment and art is something that's fairly simple, but I'm going to start off at the bottom, right? Think of tickets. So up until now, like I was mentioning, I'm thinking of the guys who do the festival in December in India. It's now missing my mind. It's either called Supersonic or Supercharge or one of those. I haven't been to one in a really long time, but the idea is, think of it. Sorry, Om, what were you saying?
Super Bowl is something that you're referring to?
The ones that happen in Goa with Nikhil Chinnappa and everybody is like jamming is completely missing my mind. But the idea is it's a music festival. But what they've done this last time around is that all of the tickets that they sold, a part of them were essentially made into collectible NFTs. You could buy it as an NFT. What that gave you is a beautiful original piece of art and music, right? So it's a 30-second clip that you own, and you can do whatever you want with it. And while you own that, or as long as you own that, it gives you unlimited access to all of the supersonic events that happen in the next 365 days, right? What this meant was, technically, it was a ticket. You could have got this ticket even otherwise, right? You would have paid that money on insider.in or a bunch of these and paid for the ticket, attended this event, and maybe had a armband and then walked away. But they now converted that experience into an NFT that lives in my wallet, and I bought one. It lives in my wallet, which means I carry a piece of that brand with me forever, right? While that event may have happened back then, I now have that piece with me. And now this is a use case that a bunch of global artists are looking at exploring, right? And what I will do is, for the ones of you who love to make notes, I will also jump through a few use cases that you can note down and then maybe check out. I hope you've heard of an amazing artist called Ozzy Osbourne. That plays crazy guitar. He's a rock star. Has now launched a collection called Ozzy's Bats, which essentially are 10,000 bats, beautifully designed. And fans who love Ozzy essentially have bought into each of those bats, right, across the world. And the sort of benefits that that gives you is that if you own a bat NFT, you can go to an Aussie concert, Ozzy Osbourne's concert, anywhere that is happening in the world. You just have to inform them, you get access. It's not just that. You own this NFT, as long as you own it, you get access to the shows. When you go for the show, because you are an NFT holder, you get backstage access. Because you do this, you get access to merch. As long as you hold the NFT, all of this access exists. But the beautiful part is, let's say for some reason tomorrow, you're just like, hey, Ozzy Osbourne is not my jam anymore. Right? I'm done. You can actually sell that NFT for a decent amount of money. Somebody else can buy it. You have access to all of these benefits, which are way more than the value that you actually paid, or the amount that you paid for the NFT. And you sell it, you make some money off it, and you get to keep all the benefits that you've had until then. So a lot of brands and bands are looking at saying, hey, can I find a way to convert my tickets to experiences, my tickets to collectibles, so that 15 years from now, and I'm not kidding, I went to watch a football match in Barcelona in the stadium in 2017. I framed that ticket and I put it up on the wall. Well, I may be slightly crazy, but there are enough people in the world who are crazy about something, right? People are crazy about football clubs, right? Like one of the NFTs I own is called Ronin, which is basically a bunch of 8,000 NFTs. And if you know what Ronin is a masterless samurai, right? A samurai who doesn't have a master. And it's a Japanese term. And it's a very known fact that when a samurai is essentially killed or is dying, in their last breath, they actually pen down a small poem. And in Japan, it's very big culture to then decipher what those poems mean, right? There's a project out there called the Ronin, 8,000 NFTs. There are 8,000 people who have bought one of these. And for the ones who have bought these, every alternate Friday, with the funds that they have accumulated because of the sale, they've now got a professor from NYU who comes every Friday, every alternate Friday, and does a reading on one death haiku every Friday, right? My point is, these were tickets that unlocked an experience that brought 8,000 people from across the world together. My example may be extreme, but imagine this happening with football clubs. Imagine this happening with Adidas. Imagine this happening with, if you're in India, a brand here, right? Brands can now essentially expand out and bring the community together because they let people find others like them who are crazy enough about that experience. Right? So that's number one. The second one that we can jump to is experience, is memberships, right? Do check out this example called Links DAO, Links, right? Links DAO. DAO is essentially, and you learn about DAOs. But Links DAO has a crazy idea. They've said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to mint NFTs and let 1,000 people buy it. And with the money that we take or make from the sale of NFTs, we're going to go find a real world golf course, buy it, own it, and let only those who have the NFT essentially access it. Right? Now, while today that sounds crazy, think about your ability to now access clubs, right? For folks like you, at this point of time, Soho House is in Delhi. I don't know if in Delhi, but in Bombay and a few other places. There are a bunch of other clubs which essentially sell memberships. All of these could have the ability to do tiered memberships. All of these could have the ability to say, hey, you can come in from anywhere. And as far as you own this asset, you now have a membership to this pool of people doing whatever, XYZ, right? It could be a physical club. It could be a digital one. It could be anywhere. But it lets a bunch of people congregate in one place. It lets them own an asset that they can use for entry and in the future also sell that. Right? On-chain resume, there's some very interesting stuff happening there. Think about it this way. Today, you're applying for a new job and they ask you for your resume. Ideally, you're going to either send them your LinkedIn or most probably, if they really like you, they're going to then go ahead and do a background check and send in a bunch of companies to check up on, are you lying? Are you telling the truth? There are a bunch of companies now who are saying, hey, let us work around not just the companies that you worked for, or the role that you said you have, but also help you quantify your skills. So if you were somebody who was great at analytics, right, there are now companies which will let you, and I'm not going to say competitive testing, but essentially find a way to benchmark yourself on analytics, on SCM, right, on PMP. bunch of these analytics use case. Or if you're saying, hey, I'm a marketer, great. For performance marketing, here's what you can do. It benchmarks you on where you are. Whatever is the score that sort of comes out of there now gets minted on the blockchain. And it's now not just using, hey, I went to this college and that's why hire me. It's your ability to say, hey, my proficiency in not just who I am or where I've studied, but in these particular skills is now quantified, minted there immutably, and is available for me to show whenever I want to whoever I want that my proficiency is XYZ, which means it's no longer about saying, hey, are you lying about your 12th grade certificate? And I'm going to trust it because there is a hologram over there. But it's about the fact that this is minted on chain onto a particular blockchain, and you can actually go ahead and share this as a resume. Right? I'm going to jump through property rights. Wyoming in the US and a couple of other jurisdictions right now in Europe have started saying, hey, I'm going to register a title deed, which tells me what is the amount of the land, what is the boundary, who owns it. Can I find a way to also register this through an NFT on the blockchain? At this point of time, we're actually working with two companies in the US who actually buy physical pieces of land, register it with the local registry. But in that registration, add the tokenization address, which means they mint this piece of land as an NFT. They add that information in the title deed, and then they bring it onto the platform for anyone to buy. What that means is, think about it. If you have the money and the financing to actually buy it, you could literally buy the NFT. As long as you own the NFT, you own that piece of land. When you sell the NFT, the rights of that place are sold to whoever you're selling it to. Because it's so early today, there are very few jurisdictions that are actually doing this, right? So Wyoming in the US recognizes this legally. But there are a bunch of other companies who are saying, hey, can we find a way to tokenize land records? Maharashtra in India had started a pilot project to try and put all land deeds and land records on chain and on the blockchain. It was an experiment. I don't know how far they've reached, but I know that they were looking at trying that. Imagine a future where buying a property or buying a piece of land could be as simple and as quick as essentially having a token available and you being able to buy that and the ownership moves. Now, the question is very simple, right? And this is something that you can ask me in the questions later, which is, why do you need this? It works really well even today. Well, it does. 2-3 things, right? One, every time there is a sale, you have to go through a fairly long diligence process, which says, hey, the guy you bought it from, is that legit? Then from first buyer to second buyer, is that legit? Was that legit? Where is this registered? How do I go to a registry office? How do I do that? What happens is, when all of this information is on chain, all of this is verifiable literally instantly, which means, and it's transparent, it's immutable, which means it's irrefutable, it exists out there, and it's public and permissionless. So the ability to do due diligence as such on any of these is way faster than what you could do in the real world. And you could say, hey, it's incredibly fast today. It takes less than a month, which is true. But you could also do it in a few days because you have this. And you could not just do it when you're buying, but you could also do it when you're selling, right? And what I usually tell people, or the way I see it, is that we're still very early in this space. And hence a bunch of these use cases these are slightly stretched. It'll take some time till this happens. But the reality is that these are happening, right? Like in about a couple of weeks, if you look at the platform that we've built on Asset Money on the dashboard, you will actually be able to buy land. You can buy land in Wyoming. At this point of time, we're actually buying and tokenizing it and bringing it here, which means it's not an alien concept. You will see it there. It might be for one Ethereum, which is about 60,000, 70,000 rupees. And you can literally click and buy. And if you buy it, complete ownership is now transferred to you. So this is here. It's happening right now. You then have identity. This is something that I spoke about. Imagine a future where, in a permission way, you can put a lot of your information who wants access to it, essentially pings. You get a ping saying XYZ is requesting information to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can either approve or disapprove. Imagine what that looks like, which means if you open 15 bank accounts, 15 is too much. If you open 4 bank accounts, if you open 3 credit cards, if you apply for 2 loans, you don't have to do KYC every single time with every different lender. All of this information is available in one place. India is actually trying something like this, not on the blockchain, but with a centralized entity known as the CKYC, Central KYC. But globally, something like this will be very difficult to establish. But imagine what that could look like. A part of your identity could live on chain. You could decide who gets access to it. And this is the stuff that exists in the real world. So your address proof, your finance proof, your how much money do you make, and you can choose who gets access to this. Now imagine one step away from that. Imagine most of you, the fact that you're doing this session with GrowthSchool right now, it means that you're inquisitive about what Web3 could be, where it could go, what I could do with this, right? You're looking at the possibilities. Imagine the future where all of you hopefully go and set up your own crypto wallets. After you set up your wallet, let's say today, or most of you may have already set up a wallet. If you haven't, I would highly recommend set up a wallet with MetaMask, because it's great and easy, and you can actually experience buying a bunch of NFTs and dabbling in stuff. But let's say you set up a wallet, and over the next 5 years, imagine what history in your wallet looks like. The smaller transactions you made, the assets that you bought, the logins that you did, the money that you lent to other people, the money that you borrowed, right? The assets as an NFTs that you bought and sold. All of this is information that now sits within your wallet. You could choose to have a program essentially go through all of this and build a very, very rich credit profile of who you are, what you do, and then choose who you want to give access to that data. Today, you can't choose. Your activity on Facebook is tracked, is monitored, and is actually available to the highest bidder to sell you a product. And actually, I love that, right? Because I get very customized ads. But the point is here, you have the ability to choose who gets access to that. So it could be applying for a new loan, it could be applying for a new account and doing this, or it could just be frivolous stuff like, I'm looking at buying something and they want to check what sort of NFTs I've bought. What else can I do, right? So identity will be a very, very big use case. Imagine what that could be with a real world identity and then our digital identity merged into a single space where we add a layer, we give people permission to access that. Art is something that I really won't spend too much time on, because art is very subjective, right? Everybody looks at art very differently. Some people buy in for the speculation. Some people buy in for the community. I will talk about a couple of projects as we go on from the art perspective, so I'm going to skip that. With gaming, what's happening at this point of time is, think about any game that you've played. You essentially were able to go from one level to the other because you accomplished something which gave you points. But all of those points existed only within that game, which means when you left the game or you switched off the game or you went to another game, everything that you did, all the hard work that you did stays there. It just stays there within that game. Tomorrow, if the game shuts down, it's gone. All the level ups that you've done and the swords or the jackets and the clothes that you've bought, all of them stay there. There are a bunch of games right now who are saying, hey, what if it's not like that? What if I can let you take all of your effort, all of your coins, all of your hard work, all of your caps and your swords and stuff to other games that you like to play? While most of us may not be very big on gaming, gaming is actually a huge industry, right? $70 billion a year. And there are a bunch of gamers who today spend an inordinate amount of time playing a few games. Now imagine what it looks like when you're able to do two things. Number one, you're able to take your street cred in one game to the other. What does that look like in the future? What does that mean? It's still being deciphered, but you will be able to do that. The second one is, think about a game you played where you had to buy a farm and on that farm run a cow. And I think Sandeep is going to speak in a couple of days this week, right? Sandeep and Cheryl, and I would recommend with Crop Bites, I would recommend you ask them how that works. But now imagine you built a farm and you built all of these crops and you did all of that. And then for the next 2 weeks, you are out, you're traveling, or you are, I don't know, you have exams, whatever it is, you're not able to play the game. You can literally rent away your assets for the time that you're not here. And for the time that somebody else takes it on rent from you, they can literally play with it. You actually make money for the time that you're even not playing the game. Now, while that sounds like a very, very narrow use case, think about what that means. You could play, build cred, play for some time, hand that over to somebody else to rent, or you could now not be an active player in the game. You could be an investor in the game. You could come and say, hey, I'm somebody who has no interest in a Farmville sort of a game. But what I do know is that there are 400,000 people playing this game every day, but there are only 5,000 cows in this game. And I'm using an abstract example. I can buy 5 cows and let people take it for rent because there are only 5,000. Right? I'm not actively playing the game, but I have a way to monetize my resources for that time in that ecosystem, right? These sort of use cases are coming up because of NFTs. And I think PropBytes is an excellent example. They will talk to you, I think, this week about how they've built an economy. How does that work? How does it mimic a real world economy where supply and demand are both constrained, and how do they work with that? I'm going to jump on to the next one, which is NFTs as an asset class. While I do that, I'm going to take a quick 10-second break and just ask you guys if you all are still here, because I can't see a lot of videos on. So I just need to know, is it happening? Are we here? You can just say hi or hello in chat so I know that we are here. We are, right? Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, let's jump in. So now we're looking at NFTs as an asset class. Oh, that's a lot of people. I am looking at chat. Okay, thank you for that. So I know we're all here and we're doing this. Okay, now we're looking at NFTs as an asset class. What does that even mean? Right? Today we're looking at NFTs and saying, "Ye time pass hai," right? This is happening. It's working. It may not mean something. But what if we look at NFTs and say, hey, this could genuinely be a space where we invest a very small percentage of my portfolio because there is something happening here. I don't know what's happening, but I know there's something happening. I know there are investments happening. I know things are moving up and down, and I want to just figure out what that looks like. And to give you an idea of how structured the space has got and what all is happening there, I've essentially looked at 4 concepts, right? Concept number 1, secondary markets. Secondary markets are the most important economic concept for any asset to actually be valuable. What that means is, here is a fidget spinner. I bought this, right? Which means there was a primary market. I bought this for private consumption. Is there a secondary market for this as a physical good? Can I go and sell this to somebody just as easily? Right? Is there a secondary market for something like this? There may be, but it's a really small one, right? Is there a secondary market for a car? It's slightly larger, which means there are people who are buying secondhand cars. Is there a secondary market for houses? There is, right? So for any resources that are limited, very often there could be secondary markets. And that means that when you buy something, you also have the ability to sell it to someone, right? This has now started happening in NFTs. So at this point of time, there are, I was looking at the numbers for last month. There on OpenSea, which is the largest marketplace for NFTs, there are still 1 million transactions happening every day. These are people buying, but it's also people selling, which means that there is enough activity happening for things to come to me, but also to go away, right? For me to sell. Number 2 is essentially lending and borrowing. People have now started looking at NFTs as a serious asset class, which says, hey, I think this has value. If it has value, can I take it to someone and say, keep this with you, give me some, lend me some money. When I bring it back with interest, give me my asset back. This sort of stuff today happens with, let's say, a house, right? You want a loan, you go to the bank, they keep your house on as guarantee, and they can essentially then go ahead and give you some money. When you repay that money, you get your house back. Collateralization in NFTs is something that's already started happening, right? A company known as NFT is currently the largest in the space. And I think they've done about $300 million worth of collateralization, which means somebody's come and said, here is an NFT, the value of which is maybe 10 Ethereum. What I want is I want a loan for 5 Ethereum. I will return it in 30 days. And for taking this loan, what is the interest? And somebody on the other side says, I will charge you an interest of 20%. They say, great. They keep the asset with them. They take 5 Ethereum, go do whatever they want with it, come back, repay that money and take the asset. This is happening today. Check out NFTFI, right? So NFTFI and Arcade, both of these are very, very large platforms which are helping you collateralize, putting your NFT as a collateral. The same thing on the other end is happening with fractionalization. What does fractionalization mean, right? At this point of time, think of an NFT like a CryptoPunk. Today, a CryptoPunk might be close to 100 Ethereum, right? Which could be close to $100,000. I haven't seen the price in a while. So I'm assuming it's close to $100,000, which means most of us would not be able to buy it. But because NFTs are built in a way, right, that you can program things into them, what's happening right now is somebody is buying a CryptoPunk, making 100,000 fractions of it, so that each one of us could own one fraction for $1. I could own 100 fractions for $100. So even if I don't have $100,000, I could still own 0.1% of a CryptoPunk. And it's not just me saying I own it. This exists on the blockchain. My ownership in that asset is there. It's immutable. It exists there, which means any benefits that come in, if that asset sells, right? Like I've bought a bunch of fractions of a bunch of punks. And when I bought them, they were at 30 or 40 Ethereum each. They might be now significantly more. Whenever they sell, or if they sell, whatever is the added price or my value in that asset has doubled, right? So all of these are already happening in NFTs as an asset class. I'm going to go slightly faster because I want to leave some time for questions. We're now looking at the ecosystem, right? So what's happening around NFTs? There are three large things that are happening. Number one is marketplaces. This is where you essentially go and buy or sell an asset. Today, most of the marketplaces that exist, think of them as eBay, right? You could buy an NFT for $500,000 or maybe $1 million. And right next to that NFT, you can also buy a gaming NFT for $1. All of them exist on the same marketplace, right? So that's how LooksRare works. That's how OpenSea works. On the same marketplace, you have art worth $1 million and worth $1, which means discoverability is compromised, but access exists. Right? You can find all of them, legit collections on OpenSea, but what do you buy is something that you need to know. If you know what you want to buy, you can go on OpenSea and buy it, right? You will also have to be careful on the fact that the collection is legit, because anyone can make a collection. They can literally go ahead and mint their own collection, which looks like yours, and very often people might fall for it, right? So on all of these, we are still early enough in the space that we are in the eBay era. In the future, you will have a lot of, so these are horizontal marketplaces, right? In the future, you will have vertical marketplaces. Like one of the ones that we are working with right now is a marketplace which does only land. They actually go buy physical land and they tokenize it. This is all they do. They're really good at it. But the interface also is beautiful because the experience is optimized for land. It's not optimized for a single photo that you see and you click and buy, right? You can actually go turn things around. You can see what it looks like. You can see what's around. You have a lot more information about it. In the same way, you have a bunch of now marketplaces which are only for photography. So there, the pictures or the importance given to the pictures is not that I will crop them, right? OpenSea crops them the way they want. But for photographers, all of that matters. So a lot of horizontal marketplaces have started coming up. On the other side, a bunch of folks are investing in this space. You have your regular investors. You have VCs coming in, you have hedge funds coming in. But the beautiful part is whenever you learn about DAOs, a bunch of DAOs are now formed who are coming and investing in this space. The two that I have here on the right side are, one on top is Flamingo DAO. Right? Definitely check out Flamingo DAO. It's a set of 99 people who put in a certain amount of money, took that money, created a pool, and then started investing. They invested in NFTs, they invested in companies, Web3 companies, they invested in projects, and now the overall treasury is incredibly appreciated and valued because of the investments that they've made. But they operate as a DAO, which means everybody has an equal say. It's not like a VC fund where one partner takes the call. It's a bunch of people who then decide what do we do with these funds. The LAO, which is the legal DAO, again operates, in the same way. So you have a bunch of those. And then on the other end, you have a bunch of infrastructure projects, right? What infra means is these are the guys who power stuff at the back, right? Like for example, right now, what we do at Asset Money is we help you discover, buy, sell assets, right? Which means for a normal person, they could come find what NFTs I can buy, actually buy them, look at what their value is and sell them. There are also tools which help you fractionalize NFTs. So you come here, take your NFT there, break it down, and essentially break it into 1,000 pieces. There are those, like I said, NFTFi and a bunch of these, which essentially help you collateralize them. So this is the third leg where a bunch of tools are being built to make the place or make the space much larger and simpler. These essentially make up what the ecosystem looks like. I'm going to take a quick couple of minutes to talk about one important technical aspect, right? There are two unique types of NFTs. One is known as the ERC 721. The other one, that's one type of NFT. The second one is known as ERC 1155. Very, very simple. And I will explain it to you in the simplest way possible, right? ERC 721 is what the original NFTs were. So in 2017, right, 5 years ago, is when the idea was, hey, today on the blockchain, there is just information available. Can we find a way to mint a non-fungible token where every token is an individual smart contract? Every single token. Every token is unique. Every token is non-fungible. And the example of that is CryptoKitties. If you've seen CryptoKitties, they started off in 2017. Every kitty is individual. Every kitty has a value. Every kitty is non-fungible. What that means is, imagine you're playing a game with CryptoKitties, and now you want to pay somebody $10 and buy 5 kitties. You know what that looks like? You will first do one transaction to pay somebody $10. We'll then do a second transaction to buy the first CryptoKitty. Then a third transaction to buy the second CryptoKitty. A fourth transaction to buy the third CryptoKitty. And the fifth transaction to buy the fourth CryptoKitty. You actually do 5 transactions to buy 6 transactions rather to buy 5 CryptoKitties, because each of them are individual and non-fungible. What that meant is, while this was very valuable for those tokens which are very high value, but not high frequency. Right? So if you had a limited collection, or if you had those tokens which were only going to be sold once, right, it made sense to mint these. But as we went on, newer use cases came up. So in 2019, Engine, which is a company which actually manufactures and builds games, said, dude, this does not work. Imagine if I'm playing a game and I need to sell somebody 100 jackets. For 100 jackets, they need to do 100 transactions. Imagine how expensive and time consuming that becomes. I need to find a way in which all of these are unique, but they are not completely non-fungible. They are semi-fungible. And what that means is they're programmable. So they're still unique, they're still individual, but I program certain qualities in it. But I'll give you examples of what that looks like. So if you think of all of the NFT projects that you know today, right? Bored Apes, Cool Cats, Doodles, all of these are essentially ERC 721. Because their point is, nobody is going to buy 500 or 200 Bored Apes or 200 CryptoPunks. Each of them are individual. Every single transaction is for one token. Whereas, think of another use case where within a game, you're now buying 100 tokens, or you're buying 100 cows. All of those are built on ERC 115. Again, very simple example. Think of what semi-fungible means. I'm going to an event. I receive an NFT, which can be used once as a ticket. And once it's used once as a ticket, it then becomes a collectible. This is programmed into it, which means that it is non-fungible as well as fungible in a single transaction. Right? It's slightly technical, but it's very important to know this, because literally every single NFT in this space is either built on this one or on this one. Right? In the same transaction, you pay for it, it's a ticket, but after you use the ticket once, it's scanned and authenticated once, it becomes a collectible, cannot be used again as a ticket, but becomes a collectible that stays with you forever. All of these sort of use cases are built in because it's semi-fungible. And remember, right at the beginning, I told you that currency, money, is also fungible. In a single transaction, I can pay for something and also receive 1,000 of those assets in a single blockchain transaction. In non-fungible, or in basically ERC21, I have to do every one unique. So one is a payment transaction, and then a second one is a movement of asset transaction. In a single transaction, I can pay and receive those assets. I'm going to quickly just jump through a few projects that you should know about. CryptoPunks, again, minted in 2017, were important from the fact that they were actually the first on-chain art. Right? It was the first time somebody took the effort to mint images on a blockchain and put them, and which is why today, even though you can't do much with them, CryptoPunks is still a signal, right? They're a signal that either I've been here for so long or I'm so rich, either one of those, right? But they essentially show provenance. I've been here for the longest time. I own a punk, and I've heard from punk owners that other punk owner, it becomes easier to access business deals, easier to access stuff in the entertainment space, if you are a punk owner, the provenance for this will always exist. They will be the first project or first NFT project, and hence the value essentially comes from there. The second one that you should know about is loot. I would love for you to read about this. Hasn't taken up as a project yet, but think about what this looks like. Any game you played today, you essentially went to a game, chose a character, and in that character, you then chose a helmet and something to wear in your hands, and a jacket and a pant and a weapon, and then moved on. What Loot did was flipped it. Loot essentially minted an NFT with 8 words. Each of those words was a characteristic. So the first one indicated what goes on your head. It could be a cap. The second one was what your weapon is, right? It could be a gun or a katana. The third one could be what your jacket is. The fourth one is what you're wearing in your legs. Just 8 words and minted as NFTs, 8,000 NFTs. And what they said is, hey, think about the world in the future where everybody who owns this NFT comes with that NFT. And when they log into your game, you read the characteristics of their NFT. What are those 8 things? And you create a character for them in your game using these. So instead of a game giving you characters, you bring your own characters, right? It was the first time that this was ever done. This is a 2020 project. Do check them out. The last one, of course, is Bored Apes. We've heard so much about it, but the reason that they really took off in value is because they did something for the first time. They said, hey guys, we're going to mint apes, but if you own an ape, whatever the hell you do with it, whatever, even commercially, is your baby. Can you imagine Disney saying that to you, right? You could watch Frozen, but if you own a piece of Frozen, you can't do anything with it because everything is owned by Disney. Bored Ape said, if you own an ape, whatever you do, it's all yours. Any money you make, all yours. There are now restaurants with apes. There is a 4-ape music group who travels the world as apes, as Bored Apes, and makes music. And all the money they make from it goes directly to them. There is now a TV show coming up with apes. There is a bunch of stuff happening, but they essentially unlocked true value for their holders by being the first project that essentially gave them the ability to monetize commercial IP. I am going to quickly take 3 minutes and wrap this up. How do you evaluate NFT projects, right? A bunch of you might want to go out and start buying stuff. The 3 things to keep in mind. Number 1 is, up until 2020 or even early 2021, most of the founders who are building projects in this space were anonymous. The founders who set up Bored Apes were anonymous. Nobody knew who they were. They could be anyone. There have been a bunch of projects like Azuki, which have done great. And then when the founder was revealed on who the founder was, essentially it just tanked because of the past behavior, past history, whatever it is of the founder. What's happening right now is a lot of normal people like you and me are entering this space who are not anonymous, who bring their credentials here and who are building projects in this space, which let you say, hey, if this is a founder, this is where they've come from. Check out a project known as Moonbirds, Moonbirds. And Moonbirds is by Kevin Rose. Again, a founder who's done great stuff in the Web2 space, has built large businesses, came into this space. All the 3 projects that they have dropped have done incredibly well, because what that tells people is that this person knows how to think about this, has the industrial relationships, has done a bunch of stuff, which means that his ability to deliver on this, his or her, is going to be very, very strong. So they back the project, right? Number 2 is the community. You guys are already in Discord, which is fantastic. Spend some time jumping into a bunch of other Discords, looking at what's happening there. If you are in our Discord where the only thing that people talk about is how do we keep pumping our collection so that it becomes, or the floor price goes up, please run, because that's not a community that's going to exist for very long. But if you see a community like yours, where people are discussing how do we build stuff, what else can we do, how do we learn, with a community like that, you know that the community is going to be here for a while and is going to back that project. And the last one, of course, is analytics. I'll quickly show you a few things that you should know. I'm hoping actually that I will send Om this slide, which means that he can send this across to you guys so you can look at these charts later. But this is what shows you the health of any collection, right? Just 5 charts. That's it. That's all you need. Number 1 is volume. If any collection, NFT collection, doesn't have volume, it just genuinely means that while an influencer is pumping it, people just aren't buying, right? So look at, is there volume? Are people buying, right? And you see the cyclic nature of it, but you realize that there is a ton of volume in this space, right? Number 2 is unique holders. If it's a 10K project, how many people actually hold that NFT? Imagine a 10K project where there are 10,000 NFTs, but 1,000 people own 10,000 NFTs. What that means is, on an average, every person owns 10. Now imagine either they delist all of those 10 or they list all of those 10. Price manipulation is very easy. Whereas on the other side, with what you see here, right, 5,000, 6,000 holders in a 10,000 project means that one person cannot influence the price of a project. In the same way, total sales, right? Is the project dead? Is there activity happening? Right? Because when you're buying into something, you're also hopefully saying, hey, I'm going to invest in this, learn from this, but I'm also going to hopefully hold this for a long time, which means, is there activity happening? You also look at a floor price trend, and the last one is an average price. For the folks among you who are interested in this, please, you can always read up about this or get in touch later. I won't jump into this, but essentially, there is a floor price at which assets sell, and then there are the outliers, right? Like yesterday, there was a lot of news about one Bored Ape selling for 700 Ethereum. That is not the norm. Most Bored Apes are selling for 70 Ethereum. One sold for 700. That doesn't mean that if you buy yours, it will sell at 700, right? What you need to look at is this, right? Is this one. What is the average price that is actually selling at, which becomes the most important one. And the last one that I want to squeeze in is very, very important as you jump into the space. Safety, very, very important, right? As you start buying, make sure to create multiple wallets. Don't use the same wallet to mint every new NFT, right? A cold wallet is one that's not connected to the internet. A hot wallet is one that is always connected to the internet, right? So if you have all of your valuable NFTs in a wallet that is very, very valuable, never connect it to the internet and keep it, because essentially it could get pulled. And the last one is, always remember, all of you are very early in this space, which is amazing because all of you will go on to build stuff, maybe buy stuff and do a bunch of stuff. But that also means that we are in that cycle where you would have influencers who talk about saying, buy this and this is it, right? Or I'm telling you, buy this and it's going to make you a lot of money. DYOR, very, very important. I just showed you the analytics that you need to look at. Anything that you buy, just look at understanding the basics behind it and then jumping it. And I am done with some time left for any questions. Happy to take them. Om, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nameet. This was a wonderful one, and it just put things all in perspective one by one. And I think it really made sense to the basics, because as a community, a lot of people want to understand things from a very layman terms. I think that's what it was about. Just jumping back to the questions, I have few of my own, and I think that's when we can jump into some in the chats. We ended the presentation with do your own research. Let's start with that point. How do I know that project that I'm investing is not a plagiarized version of one of the original ones? Because this has been something that I've been talking about from a creator's perspective. What if my art gets plagiarized? But as an investor or collector, how do I identify if it's a real or fake one?
Sure. So there are two ways of doing this, right? Today, if you look at any artist, they will link to wherever their original collections are available, right? And I have bought a bunch of fake stuff. I've been rubbed, right? But most artists will actually link to their original. So always go click on the link from the artist's social handle or the artist's website to directly go to that collection. The second way is that on larger marketplaces like OpenSea, you will always have a verified tag next to that collection, which is actually legit. So for example, you could have a Bored Ape, which was actually legit, and then you would have 100 Bored Apes, which are bored spelled differently, or ape spelled differently, or Bored Ape as one word, right? Basically trying to fool people. Two things that you do. Number one, always go to, if it's a collection that's done enough volume, you will have a verified tag, right? Sure. That's one. Second one, always go to the social handle of, social or website handle of that artist, click on it, and then go to that website and buy. And even when you do that, whenever you're going to mint something, never connect your wallet, which already has all of your NFTs. Always, use one wallet to mint and one to hold.
Got it. Any insights for people, let's say, who are not famous artists, who cannot get that verification tick mark, for example? Yeah.
Here's what I do. Here's genuinely what I do. I just DM the person, or I just say to them saying, I would love to buy your art. Can you tell me where do I do it? They usually say, hey, jumping into DM, or here is a link. And that's coming to me from the artist. They genuinely send me a link. And I do this all the time. I just ask the artist to tell me where can I buy it from? and they're more than happy to send me to the exact place where I can buy it from, right? Because we're still very, very early, like I said, right? Because it's eBay, anyone can sell anything. So you are in that space where you will need to ask either the artist or a platform.
Got it. And okay, this makes sense, at least in the phase that we are. I think this becomes important.
Right. Also, if you are an artist and somebody steals your work and mints it as their own, right? You can actually go to whatever that platform is, send them the fact that this is your artwork, show proof, and do that in under 24 to 48 hours. Usually it's taken down. Most marketplaces now are very, very serious about this stuff because it hits their reputation also.
Yeah.
They're taking down collections all the time.
Got it. There are a few in the chat. Let me see. Whom does the money go to? Is it like the creator or to the whole organization? Suppose a piece of BAYC NFT is sold for $1 million. Who will have this money?
Sure. So the way it works is, let's say I'm an artist or I'm BAYC and I create a product. I can decide two things. What is the primary price? What is the starting price that I sell it at to people from me? And second is, what is the royalty? Royalty is something I make every time the transaction happens. Primary price is something that I make when I sell it. Right? So for example, BAYC sold for, I think, 0.2 or 0.3. Yeah. That was the money they made upfront. After that, every time that somebody sells, right? Like you sell me a Bored Ape, they will still make 5% of it. And whatever is the marketplace, let's say you sell it on OpenSea. OpenSea will take 2%. So if you sold something for 100,000, you would still get 93,000 as the owner. 2,000 will go to OpenSea, 5,000 will come to Bored Ape. Does that make sense? That's how royalties work. It's also why artists love this, because now when they mint something, they can actually make money from it.
Yeah, on every transaction. Yeah. Correct. Okay, and that is why I think Artist Evolution have started this first to get onto this thing.
Absolutely, right? Because initially that wouldn't happen. A gallery would pay you once, and then everything they did after that stayed with them. Now it's literally making money for life. In fact, right now, this year, all the recent collections are being sold. Primary fees are zero. They're being sold for free. They're just free mints. Come and mint it. There is nothing. Secondary sales is 10%. So they're basically putting effort to say, everybody take it for free. Got it. When you sell to each other, I will take 10%, right? And they're making a ton of money. Check out a project called Goblin Town, right? Have made a ton of money only on secondary sales.
Yeah, and I think one of the premier example is also the NFT by Beeple that got in a multiple transaction, it got to 69 million.
Absolutely.
Perfect. One question comes from Shashank is, any thoughts on liquid marketplaces, like one which Logan Paul is trying to set up?
I don't know what liquid in that means. I will have to understand that, because, sorry, this is Shashank, right?
Yeah, Shashank.
If you can just ask me with little more details, because I'm sorry, I haven't seen what Logan Paul is up to. I may not have a very high personal regard for what he's up to, but do send it to me. Once I know what he means by liquid, I can check it out and I can definitely answer that.
Got it. The next comes by Sudhanshu. Can we sell these semi-fungible NFTs after a certain period?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at a bunch of the Adidas ones, right, that you can use in a game, mostly all gaming NFTs, all of these are actually semi-fungible. You can keep them as long as you want, and then you can sell it whenever you want. And that's the beautiful part about owning an NFT. You can own it for as long as you want and sell it. I know of some colleges which are trying to say, can I charge your course fees as an NFT? As long as you own the NFT, you get access to more content. Whenever you want, you sell it to somebody. We will take 20% of that as royalty. But technically, if you sell your NFT, you bought it for 100 and sold it for 70, you still basically got half your course fees back.
Yeah.
So you can sell these. You can sell these whenever you want. The question is there somebody on the other end who's waiting to buy?
Correct. One thing, what I have seen across all the sessions, I think one thing that people will relate with is, if you can share what was your introduction to Web3, and when you got to NFTs, and ending with how does it feel to be rugged? One of the questions in the chat.
Sure, absolutely. So I essentially came to Web3 from a very, very different point of view. Right? I was actually in the fintech space for the longest time. The last thing I did was essentially build a very large business for a payments company. And when I did that, I was actually working with global counterparts to help them build payment acceptance. And I felt that for the first time in my life, a wallet, a crypto wallet that we have, right, is actually the most supreme form of access that can exist ever for anyone, because a crypto wallet can be created by anyone. As far as you have a phone which has an access to the internet, and I know an access to internet can be privileged, but as far as you have access to internet, anyone in the world can have a wallet. Once they have a wallet, the wallet becomes their identity. They can transact with it. It also becomes the same wallet that they can use to make investments. It becomes the same wallet for them to keep their assets and save them when they buy, right? It becomes their credit history tomorrow. So all of those today who cannot transact globally because they don't get Visa cards or MasterCards, right, can actually use a crypto wallet to transact, have access to that. Most of us, I'm assuming here, are from India, where our currency is fairly stable. But across the world, there are a bunch of countries where the currency is not very stable. And what happens is when your currency is not very stable, today what you own might be 100 rupees, for example, and the cost of a bread might be 100, but 5 days later, the cost of the same bread might be 1,000. But what you hold is still 100, right? So the inflationary nature of currency is crazy. A lot of those countries have adopted crypto because they're moving their local inflationary currency into a stable currency like USDC. And I'm hoping that, India will also go there at some point of time. But I essentially left Web2 and FinTech at the peak to build this. When I came here, I realized that we still have a long way to go until we do that. And a wallet is fairly ubiquitous. Anybody can access it. And then the next thing that I looked at was saying, hey, the power of an NFT to connect a creator and their audience is very, very strong. All my life, I was essentially building tools for people to connect. And I said, imagine us being able to not just build a platform where people can do that, but also hopefully help a bunch of brands understand why they should be doing this. And which is why I essentially came in from there. The first time I started buying NFTs was in early 2020, when I was buying something known as NBA Top Shots. They're small replays of basketball games. Now that's happening with cricket with a website called Fan Craze. I essentially started with Top Shots about 3 years ago and then bought a bunch of NFTs.
Got it. I mean, looking at that, we are 2 years down the line, probably from the time when you started. So for a person like me, or, the people who are listening to us, I don't know anything about Web3. I want to build something. How do I get the inspiration from? Be it an NFT project, be it a DeFi app. And once I get it, are there any ways to validate that am I on the right track?
Sure. So a couple of things on this, right? Think about it this way. In the early 70s or the early 80s, a lot of the use cases that exist today, of course, didn't exist. But even payment infra didn't exist. If you had to pay somebody, you had to cut a check and go to the bank and they would receive money 10 days later, right? Then came payment infra, then came identity infra. In the last decade came social infra. Now came the internet, but the use cases are still the same. People still want to exchange messages. People still want to send money. People still want to be entertained. All of those have stayed the same. I'm going to say, look at what you're good at. Look at what you genuinely enjoy doing. Before you start building something, speak to other folks in other Discord groups. Speak to folks who are building stuff to understand what exists. How can you make it better? And then don't be afraid. Just start building stuff. There are enough people around the community because it is that early that even folks who are as high as you think, right? Even if you think of folks who are, let's say, the founders of Polygon, you can genuinely write them an email saying, this is what I'm building, and they will take the time to reply. Because most of the folks in this space want everybody to build. So how do you validate? Very easy. Set up a simple landing page with whatever you're planning to build. Tell people a little bit about what it's going to be, why it's going to be valuable, what is the benefit. Forget about the features. What is the benefit? Put that landing page out. There are a bunch of cohorts right now which let people basically do this. Set up landing pages, put it out, see what people are saying, understand from them. If you have enough number of people actually signing up on that landing page, get in touch with them and tell them, hey, this sounds amazing. Give me some time. I will come back to you and then build it.
Perfect. This is exactly like the early stage vibes of building a project. Interesting.
Absolutely. Very iterative, right? In this space, you have to be very iterative because things move fast.
Mm. Mm. Got it. And ending up with the last question, I think, which is also I've been asking all the speakers. How should I learn in Web3? How what should be my pathway or roadmap look like, or how does it look like according to you?
Sure. So I'll tell you how I learn.
Mm.
And then hopefully, that's something that's relevant to you, right? I was technically I was not a crypto native. I would still believe I'm not a crypto native. And one thing that I do is I surround myself with almost everybody who's way smarter. And that happens by essentially being curious. So I would recommend that if you genuinely want to break into the space, right, be curious. Learn by two things. Learn by learning, which means that whenever there are resources available, go read up, figure out what that means, make your own notes. And the second one is learn by doing. Because anybody that you go to and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, if you don't show intent, the person on the other side is not bought into helping you out. Instead, if you go to them, and I've reached out to some of the most incredible people saying, hey, this is what the concept is, this is what I have done. This is why I think it works, or this is why I think it doesn't work. And this is what I'm thinking. Is this something that makes sense? And all of them have basically looked at the intent, right? So you don't walk up to people and say, now you tell me what do I do? You essentially take that first step to figure out what is it that I'm interested in? Where can I learn more about it? Because there is genuinely enough information available out there, but do the first step, learn enough, then go and figure out where is the community of people who are building. And trust me, there are a lot of communities. Even if you're looking at communities in India, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, there are a bunch of people who are saying, we're going to all learn together. I'm going to make some mistakes, pass that on to you guys. You make some mistakes. So you can definitely find those communities. But I would essentially still say that first learn by learning and then learn by doing. Don't just wait that somebody will come and teach me, because trust me, when somebody tells me, so I spent about a decade in fintech, right? But fintech is essentially tech about moving money, and money has been moving for 5,000-6,000 years or 2,000 years, right? The blockchain has existed for 12 years. Right. So there is anybody who tells you that they're an expert in this space and they've done this all their life is, as far as in if it's Vitalik, it makes sense because he built it. But otherwise, most of the other people are still trying to figure it out themselves, right? So figure out by going ahead, exploring, but then also doing. Don't just wait to learn from passively from a course. Do stuff. There are a bunch of DAOs which are happy to have people come and build with them. Akhil or Shivam are here actually from the team. They're a part of a bunch of DAOs. I think we can send that to you guys, where they actually build together, and each one is then responsible for pushing out a project, and they hold each other responsible. I think that's the best way to learn.
Got it. And I think that's what we have followed actually personally with all the cohorts that we learn, making accountability groups, learning by doing specifically, and every week we do something together. Just one last thing. Sorry, this is the last one. The giveaway that we are doing today.
Yes.
So everyone was asked to show up firstly for the session, second to sign up for asset.money, which is the platform, and set up your accounts and set up a price tracking alert on Watson. You'll find that all the details on Discord and email as well. So I just wanted to ask, what's Watson? What's the Watson project like? If you could speak a little bit about them so people could understand what are they doing.
So think about what you do today with stocks and mutual funds, right? You buy something for 100 rupees. And then you can say, hey, when this hits 500, send me a reminder. Tell me that it's hit. Or you say, when it hits 500, sell it. Something like that doesn't exist in NFTs today. We've built that. It's called Watson. So think of Watson as a smart assistant who keeps an eye on your NFTs every 5 minutes. And then there's a bunch of stuff. So Watson can tell you, hey, this project, or give you a daily update which says in the last 24 hours, your top movers are these, your bottom movers are these have changed by this much. That's a bare basic. But then you can also do fun stuff like, if you bought a bunch of NFTs, you can go and set an alert which says, I bought for 0.1. When it hits 1 or when it hits 500%, remind me. Today, what's live is remind me. So we have constant notifications. Yeah, Zero Dar is the same for stocks. We're doing that for NFTs. You can get notifications in real time on email, on the dashboard, and on Telegram. essentially informing you that something has hit a threshold. So you never have to remember. What's coming in about 3 weeks is that when it hits that threshold, you will also be able to sell it, or you can actually go and say, hey, if Bored Apes hits 60 Ethereum, buy it. Right. So essentially, Watson is a tracker which tracks and then takes actions. Think of Watson as your personal assistant, right, in the NFT space. And for the giveaway, what we're actually doing is, I don't know if you all have heard of Snoop Dogg. I like him. I like his music. Snoop Dogg actually has produced, so Snoop Dogg has bought a music label called Death Row Records. He has produced a unique piece of music, 2 minutes, minted that as an NFT, and has put it up. You can own it. You own an original Snoop Dogg piece of music. Do whatever you want. If any of your DJs, you can actually use that music and run with it. It's originally produced by Snoop Dogg. We're buying that as an NFT and giving it to one person from him.
Oh yeah,
that's an original Snoop Dogg.
I think Snoop Dogg recently did a video with Eminem where they used some of the music, right?
Absolutely, for Bored Apes, right? Yeah. And that's what we're doing. So we're buying a Snoop Dogg original piece of music and giving it away to somebody who's listening today.
Perfect. I think perfect note to end. Guys, go on Twitter, write thread what you learned about the session, tag Nameet, tag Asset Money, and tag GrowthSchool as well. That's it for today. Do share the feedback as well. Nameet, any last words? Just closing it off.
Absolutely. Just 2 things. Do not worry about making mistakes because you will make enough of them. And I was going to say, don't invest more than you can lose, but I think all of you already know that. So I'm going to leave that aside. I'm basically going to say 2 things. One is, do not worry, you will make mistakes. And the second one is, trust me, the fact that you're already doing this with Growth School is in some way, you think that there is something here. Don't let go of that feeling because it's true, right? Which means the way it exists today, the way NFTs exist, the way DeFi exists, may not exist in the same form, but the blockchain is not going away. It's valuable enough, right? Stick around. Eventually you will figure it out. Don't leave. You've trusted your gut and you've come here. Stay. If you need help, reach out. Om is there with Growth School. You can also reach out to me. But the point is, make your mistakes and don't leave. Stick around.
Perfect. Thank you so much all for joining in. I wish you guys a very good night. Sleep on it. A lot of information that you took today. A lot of food for thought that we have. And thank you so much, Nameet, for doing this with us. And we'll keep chatting inside the community, talking about what we learned today. Any questions that come in. And welcome to community. You definitely joined in the Discord community today. So we'll be seeing you more probably.
Totally. Feel free to tag me. I will try and make some time to jump in and answer some questions. I can't promise, but I will try. I will be there. And like I said, stick around. It's going to be a fun ride. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you so much all for joining in. We'll see you probably tomorrow.